Okay. So this is Ted Flett with Golden Skate, and I'm very excited to be joined by now silver medalist, 2023 U.S. National silver medalist Bradie Tennell. Thanks so much for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brady, we're now in sort of the bowels of the SAP Center in San Jose. This is the mixed zone where skaters come out and chat.
Yes.
And 3 nights ago, Thursday, after the short program, the weekend's been a blur.
Yeah.
After the short program, you stood right in the spot and you said what to the media?
I said, I'm back, baby.
And what did that mean? Tell us more.
That was just my excitement about finally giving a solid performance the way that I know I can, and being back at Nationals after having missed last year.
Talk to us a bit about the challenges of last year, not to relive them, but the challenges of last year and sort of not being at Nationals, missing the Olympics. Can you just reflect on that for us?
Yeah, it was very hard. It was hard to see everything kind of go on without me, and because I'd been preparing for it for so long. It was really difficult because it wasn't like I'd made a choice. I didn't know what was wrong. It was never diagnosed. I still don't know what happened, what was wrong. But I'm so thankful to be back here and to have made a recovery. And I learned a lot about myself last year, and I learned a lot about life, I guess, and just kind of taking things in stride and really digging deep and figuring out exactly what I want. And I think I learned just how far I'm willing to go to make my goals become a reality.
And when you say what it is that you want, what is that?
I want it all. No, I have a lot of goals that I knew prior to my foot injury last year that I would be continuing post-Olympics, no matter what had happened. So I feel like I just have so much more to give to the sport, and I still enjoy every aspect about it. And I just feel like I've been given a gift of this opportunity to compete again, and I want to use it to the fullest extent.
So talk about big changes. You, of course, have relocated now to France. Benoît Richaud is your coach. Talk about sort of what motivated that decision and the move and how it's going. Yeah,
it's going very well. I really love it. Living abroad is incredible. It's an incredible experience and opportunity. And I felt like after last year, I really just needed kind of a reset. Even in the lead up to last summer, or I guess now it's the summer before, I don't even know. But in the lead up to the Olympic season, I was,
Summer of 2021.
Yes, exactly. I guess I was just feeling like I had just gotten into a rut, I guess. When you're doing something for so long, it just becomes such a routine, and I felt like I really just needed something fresh. So I was in Lagarde, France with Benoît getting my programs done in August, and I worked with Cedric Tour while I was there. And I loved his technique, I loved his coaching style, and I thought, why not just, if any year is the year to make such a drastic change like this, this would be the year. It all kind of just stemmed from there, and it's working out really well.
When we saw you on the Grand Prix series this year, it was the first time in a season and a half.
Yeah, it was 20 months or 21 months.
Yeah. How nervous were you to get back on the ice and be seen after so long away from it?
Yeah, I'm really not going to lie. I was more nervous to skate in England than I was, or Britain, sorry. Yeah. I was more nervous to skate there than I was at the Olympics. Because just for one, I had to take the entire month of October off, so I felt like I'd lost all the training that I'd done since August, which was just in and of itself very triggering and a very frustrating situation to be in again. Having to take off before I could even fully come back. I was beside myself. So I was actually really proud of myself for overcoming that. And I had only had about 1 week of training before competing there. So I knew stepping on the ice that I didn't really have a training like backing to trust. And for me, that was like the first time in my career where I really felt like, oh, I can't trust what I've done in practice. And combining that with, you know, making that my comeback and, you know, this moment that I dreamed about for a year and a half, and just like, you know, that was my big return to competition. I was so like underprepared because of what had happened. Yeah, I was really, really nervous. And I remember like I was on the 5-minute warm-up for the short program and I couldn't breathe. I was like hyperventilating almost. And I had to skate over to Benoît and be like, I can't calm down. So yeah, that was a very difficult thing for me to do. But again, I learned things from it. I learned things about myself from it, and I take those lessons in stride and use them moving forward.
Now that was your first time having Benoît at the boards as your coach at that point in time. What did Benoît say to you in that moment?
He told me something that I will never forget. He told me, he looked me dead in the eye with his like super intense stare, you know. And I love that he does that because there's so much happening around you, but like when he just looks at you like that, like super intense, you have no choice but to like really pay attention, which is good for me. So he looked at me and he said, "You made it back. You've already won. You have like nothing to prove here. You know what you've been through. You know your situation, but by being here, you've already won." And I was like, whoa. You're right.
Deep.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is a 5-minute warm-up. There's so much happening, and you just like truth bombed me, like whoa. But yeah, it was amazing that he said that in that moment, and it almost like shocked me out of that, like, you know, I was still feeling that, but it brought it down to a more manageable level, to where I was able to like kind of focus on the fact that I had to go and do a program. You know, because I was like wanted to cry. I wanted to just like it was just too much. So yeah, he was able to kind of bring me down to a level that I could manage.
Right. That was also our first glimpse of your new programs, and you have evolved significantly since, you know, Cinderella in 2018. Yes. Can you talk about, you know, your sort of choreographic motivations and what pushes you to sort of try and not necessarily change your style, or maybe change your style, or to just, you know, evolve it and grow and present something new, particularly in this comeback? Yeah,
well, first of all, I really feel like I've personally done a lot of growing over the past year and a half. And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't try and show that in my skating. And I also feel like I need to challenge myself. I need to push myself out of my box because I don't know what I'm capable of unless I try. And I think that's also why Benoît and I work so well together, because he really understands not only what works for me, but also that, you know, I can be pushed like that. And when I love watching a performance and feeling it, like, you know, you can just feel the emotion in your chest. And when I'm on the ice, that's what I'm trying to create. I have such an appreciation for, like, if I was like not an athlete, I would have been the theater kid in high school, you know. Right. So I just have such an appreciation for performances and things that really touch you. And that's what I want every time I step on the ice. So for me this year, it's really important to pay attention to every little detail and to really, you know, tell the story that I've created around my programs. And it's really fun for me. So
how hard is it to not necessarily reinvent yourself, but to you know, to change? Where you know, when we're watching your skating, or any skater, you might think they're naturally going to turn right, and you're now turning left, and your arm might more naturally go up, but it's going down. How hard is it to sort of train yourself to do that and take on a different move line character?
It is hard, and at times it's frustrating because you're like, oh my God, sometimes like this is just uncomfortable. Why am I doing this? But then I watch it back and I'm like, oh, that was so cool. It's so worth, the struggling, the frustration. When they say blood, sweat, and tears, they really mean it. And it's just like I've gained a new appreciation for all of those moments, and I've also gained a new appreciation for the struggle, because that's kind of been my reality for a long time now as I'm coming back. And, now I feel like I'm kind of getting back to, feeling more confident in myself, and I can trust, that things are, I can be a little off and pull off the job, whereas before it would be like, oh my God, and I bail, So, yeah, I'm really committed to exploring things, and, of course, Benoît is such a creative genius that, I feel like he's got an endless repertoire to pull from. Right. So yeah, it's fun for me, and I enjoy a challenge. Without a challenge, if I can just do everything on the first try, it's boring. Right. I enjoy the struggle of perfection, and I'm a perfectionist. So. I think I picked the right sport, honestly. Where every moment needs to be so exact, Yeah,
I'd say so. Now, you said in the press conference that you're not necessarily trying to, at this point, replicate the old Brady, but sort of a new Brady, so to speak. Can you elaborate a bit on that? And is there pressure now to, just do over all the success in terms of the perfection in 2018, just on a repeat basis?
No, that's in the past. I give credit to my past self for achieving those things, but it's a new year. It's I don't want to say it's a new year, it's a new me, because why? But no, I feel like I've grown a lot, and I'm just really I don't want to limit myself. I know I'm capable of more. And my situation isn't the same. I'm not training in the same place. I don't have the same coaches. I've grown as a skater, but Benoît has also grown as a choreographer. So, there's new things to explore, and I feel like I would be doing myself an injustice if I was only trying to achieve my best of the past, because I don't know what my best of the future is.
Right. Training coming into nationals off of the Grand Prix Series in Golden Spin, what did that look like? Because you look like a different skater here than just a couple of months ago.
Thank you. Yeah, it was intense. It was hard. There were days where nothing was working. I was frustrated. But again, there's beauty in that struggle, and those are the days that I really feel like I can look back on and be proud of, because I didn't give in to just wanting to go home, or it's like when you're in a program and something is off, and it's the difference between letting it go or fighting tooth and nail for it. And I want to take advantage of everything. So, I've committed to making the best of kind of every situation, I guess. Whether that be a crappy training day or, making a mistake in a long program. I feel like it's just I don't know how to describe it, really. It's just kind of an uphill battle, and you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but as long as you're giving it your all, that's all you can ask for yourself.
Sure. Coming into the event, you're a very decorated, U.S. and international skater, but also a bit of a wild card based on sort of how the season has gone so far. How much pressure did you feel, or did you feel some level of expectation of yourself when you took the ice in the short program?
The only expectation I put on myself was to skate the way I had been in practice. because I'd been skating clean short and longs every single day for the past, I don't know how long. So I told myself, and Benoît told me, he's like, you change nothing. You skate like it's practice, you know? He's like, you don't need to invent anything. You just go and you do your job like you do every day, because that will be enough. And so that was almost freeing to think about that way, because, you know, like you said earlier in the season, I couldn't do that. So it was nice to have that kind of feeling where, like, oh, I don't need to try so hard. Like, I can just do what I've been doing every day, you know?
Was this a new costume in the short program here at Nationals?
This was a whole new short program.
Okay, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I changed it right after Zagreb, and so it's been, what has it been, like 5 weeks, 6 weeks? I don't know, I think 5. But yeah, we just changed the whole program. Benoît just, we were on our way to the rink for the free skate, and he said, we're gonna change the short program. And I was like, oh, okay, which part? He's like, no, the program.
All of it.
I was like, oh, why?
Yeah.
And he said that, you know, he's like, just trust me, it will be good. I was like, okay. And yeah, we started choreographing it, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. Like, he sent me the piece of music that I wound up picking, and I was so taken by it. I love a good piano piece. I used to play the piano as a kid, so I'm very moved by piano. And I just really felt so drawn in by the sadness and the melancholy of the piece. And I just immediately, I was like, oh my God, this makes me want to cry. It's like, I have to skate to this, which might sound funny to some people, but that's the kind of emotion that I want when I'm having to hear a piece of music every single day over and over, you know, because by the end of the season, you know your music note for note, inside and out. So I just really identified with it and connected with it. And then the program, just the way he choreographed it, it just flows, like it feels like water. And I really do love it. And I was watching it actually last night on YouTube, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad we made that change, that we took that risk, because I really like it. And I felt that when I watched it myself, I was happy with what it looked like, because, you know, you can feel something one way, and you think it feels like it looks a certain way, but maybe it doesn't. And I was like, oh, I'm glad it looks the way it feels when I skate it.
Can you tell me sort of the inspiration behind the costume? Like, your costuming has also changed more recently. It's sort of less sparkle and more substance, or even storytelling in what you're wearing. Can you elaborate or describe that a bit?
Yeah. I'm all for the less is more kind of philosophy. And especially with this short program music, it's just so sad, you know. Benoît and I kind of felt like no stones were necessary to get the message across. And it's kind of, the piece is kind of like darkness to light. And it also kind of parallels my journey over the past year and a half. You know, like it started out so dark and very sad, and now there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which is where the yellow in the skirt comes in. So it's, yeah, I just felt like, I mean, Benoît suggested it, and I completely agreed, and I just didn't feel like stones were necessary there. And I love a good, simple black dress, you know. It's just so timeless and classic. And yeah, I love the dress. And my free skate, I was just stunned when it came in the mail. I was like, oh my God, this is a work of art. The airbrushing, the stones, the color blending, it's just amazing. It starts out in winter, because it's 4 seasons. It starts out in winter, and then it goes through all the seasons. And I was just like, oh, this is just such an essential part of the story I'm telling. And really, that's what I'm aiming for with with that program, you know, is telling the story. And, you know, costume and makeup and hair, it all plays such a huge part of that. So yeah, I was really thrilled when I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, it's perfect.
Right. At the end of your free skate, when you're back in your sort of kneeling position, you look at the judges, and it's a look that's almost indescribable in terms of what you're trying to evoke or say. What are you trying to say to the judges, or what are you conveying in that moment?
So I actually just recently started doing that because I felt like, you know, the story I'm telling of the statue saving the Earth from climate change, it's almost like I'm giving them one last look, and that look is like I was able to save you this time, you know, and I'm almost daring them to like, you better keep it this way. Like, it's fixed for now, but I swear, like, if I have to wake up again, you know, if I find the Earth in this condition again. So it's almost like a look of like, I'm watching you.
You're putting them on notice.
Right. Even though I'm going back to sleep, I'm watching you.
Excellent. How nervous were you, or how did you feel sort of going into the free skate?
I was nervous, but I was also excited, you know. I knew that I'd been skating clean programs, so I just kept telling myself, like, you just have to do what you've been doing every day. And, you know, sometimes in the middle of the program, you know, some things can feel off, but they might not look as off as they feel. So sometimes when that happens, it can get in your head, and I think that might be a little bit of what happened to me with those two jumping errors. And you know, I've worked a lot on not letting mistakes affect me, because that's something that you have to train. And it's frustrating to make mistakes, and you know, you realize, oh, I have the rest of the program, but I know I made a mistake, and you know, you just immediately want to start it over, but you can't start over in a competition, so you have to keep going, right? So I was really proud of myself for the way that I was able to recover some of those mistakes and tack on the double toe that I missed earlier in the program onto the pop triple Lutz. I'm actually very, even though that was a big error for me and I was frustrated with that, I'm happy and proud that I was able to keep my wits about me to recover from the previous mistake. So yeah, but no, I was very excited, and I was actually excited because I knew that I was more prepared this time. So I was excited for people to be able to see this program and the way it looks when it's better trained.
Right. You were like virtually tied with Isabella Vito after the short program.
Right.
And a couple of little bobbles or flubs on the last two spins really were, you know, told the story, and you could have potentially been first.
Right.
What happened on those couple of spins? Were you having such a great skate that you let it go for momentarily, or? Yeah,
it was almost like there's so many emotions flying, you know, in my head at that point, and I think I had just a little bit too much speed, first of all, going into that spin, because when you're going into the death drop and I cross my leg underneath, it's hard to do that, and if you have too much speed, you can wind up losing control really easily, and that's what happened. And I watched it back, and it actually didn't look so out of control, but it felt super off.
Right.
So instead of possibly taking a fall, I just kind of aborted, and then unfortunately I didn't get, you know, down below 90 degrees quick enough, so that's, you know, I lost a solid, you know, few points on that. And then the last spin was fine, except I pulled up for the upright straight and I hit a rut in the ice. And I was so upset because I was like, oh my God, I know I didn't hold that long enough, so it's not going to be the level.
Right.
and that's a fluke thing. You can't control that. So.
And you know that in your mind as it's happening.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there is a lot.
Yeah.
Ping-ponging around.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
While you're trying to convey the melancholy
exactly.
nature of the program.
Exactly. And like it's also a skill to not allow all of these thoughts to show on your face, right? Like you have 1,000 thoughts flying in your head, or at least I did this time. Sometimes it's completely blank, and that's ideally what you want, because you're just in the zone. But I've actually talked to a lot of other athletes and athletes that have retired, and a lot of them say you'll only really ever achieve that perfect zone, maybe once or twice in your career. And I'm like thinking back, and you're right. Like you're really right. So yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of chatter on the internet about under rotations, and sometimes specifically with your jumps. What do you do to try and avoid and resist that urge to land a bit sooner for comfort and security? What does that look like for you?
Well, I wouldn't say that, like, it's not really about controlling when you land, because once you jump, you're going to land when you land.
Right.
It's more about just letting things flow. And when, at least for me, the way it works is when I get nervous, I tend to pull back a little bit. So I've really just been working on not doing that, and it was definitely better at this competition, and I'm seeing a lot of improvement in that. And yeah, I was really happy, especially with the combo and the long. I really thought that I was like, okay, that one was good. But even on my loop, my flip, I feel like I'm just jumping higher since I've come back, and I'm happy to see that work paying off.
Yeah. What do you attribute that to? Like, how does one jump higher? I don't jump people, so
yeah.
I wouldn't know how to do a higher one.
I think it's just a lot of there's so many different aspects that go into it, and I would say for me, it's just allowing myself the freedom to jump and not worrying about holding back.
You sort of started off your own era, so to speak, in 2018. Then we had years of Alyssa Liu, and now it looks like this could be the start of Isabel Levito really sort of pushing onto the scene. Can you speak to longevity as a 24-year-old now in the sport, which tends to really favor 15, 16, 17-year-olds? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think in anything, there's always someone out there better than you, right? And there's always someone new, and there's always going to be someone who's going to challenge you and push you to be better yourself. And that's something that I really enjoy about sports in general, is that, it's pretty much anybody's game all the time, because you never know what's going to happen on game day. So that's something that I find really exciting, and it pushes me in practice to work harder and push the envelope more. And I know skating is like, it does tend to favor the younger kids, but there's something to be said for experience. And I feel like I do have experience now, and I feel like when you watch me skate, you can kind of see that. At least I think so, but I'm a little biased. But yeah, I think longevity is so important. We spend our entire lives doing this, and I feel like to retire, when you're 17 or 18 or 19 even, like, I just feel like if it's not, if it's what you want, then by all means, but I feel like for me, I always knew that I had more to give, and as long as I'm competitive, I feel like, why not continue? I love doing this, and as long as I could still do the jumps and everything, I don't see why not.
Sure. Two more questions, but following up on that last one, you're right that the sport tends to favor youth. But it's like, Brady, what I see is that it's in the women's event, right? Like, less so in men, certainly less so in pairs and ice dance.
Right.
Is there this, is there almost a gender bias or some sexism in terms of shelving female or lady skaters who are 20 and plus to just automatically favor the younger skater. Do you see that? Do you observe that? Do you have any thoughts or insights on that?
I mean, I'm not sure what label I would put on it, but I don't know. I always just, for me, I just focus on like myself, but I also feel very passionately about the fact that, you know, like Star is 21, I believe. Amber is 23. You know, she landed the triple axel here. That's incredible. And I feel like, you know,
Caroline
as
Costner was in her 30s.
Exactly. And as you grow and you mature, you come more into yourself, and I feel like it brings just a whole new, almost magic to the sport and program, because you also have more life experience. So I feel like you can put more of that into your performances, and I feel like that brings something special, and you know, it makes things more interesting to watch. And I certainly don't discredit any of the young kids, because I was once a young kid as well, you know. And I think it's exciting to see what the young kids are bringing to the table. But yeah, I think it's important that we give credit where credit's due to the athletes that have stuck with the sport through life's ups and downs. And you know, I feel like it's like a disservice to some of the older athletes that have been doing this for a long time, to kind of, you know, I don't want to say, like, it's such a touchy topic, because, you know, I'm an older athlete, so of course I'm like, oh, I think it's important for longevity. But yeah, it's two sides of the same coin, and I feel like they both bring different things to the table, and I feel like they should both be appreciated.
I like that. It's almost like putting the judges and the sport on notice, just like you did at the end of your free skate. Last question: where will we see you next in terms of competitions, and what are your goals there?
I'll be competing in 4 continents.
Great.
And my goals are to obviously get all my spin levels, because that was
good goal. Good goal.
You know, and yeah, I want to again just be free in my skating, in my programs, and I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't want to win. You know, I'm obviously going, and I want to be up there. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, best of luck. Thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.